Glad you're here. Yes. All right. So I'm going to have, so this next section now, we're going to do some collaborative work. I'm going to have Jaime is going to introduce this tool. We may practice on it and then give us instructions and move on. So go ahead, Jaime, take over.
Okay, everybody. So this is Excalidraw. You can find it at excalidraw.com. However, we want you to, what you're seeing in my shared screen here in big blue button, you can access directly via this link I'm about to put into the chat. So Excalidraw, if you haven't seen it before, is a collaborative drawing program. It's a free Libre open source software program. They have more details about its development on GitHub up in the top right-hand corner. But today we're going to use it to collaboratively elaborate a internet timeline of important movement events and important events in all of our respective movements, and including the free software movement. We want to plot those over time. So as you're joining, you can see small arrows moving around. Each of those cursors represents one of your users. You can assign yourself a username up in the top right-hand corner by clicking on the one of the bubbles with the question mark. There are several tools for drawing in Excalidraw. The only ones we really need to use today, however, will be the line tool and the text tool. The line tool, you can find all of the tools at the top center of the screen. And the line tool is the 6 from left to right, and it looks like a little dash. And then 2 icons over is the text tool represented with the letter A. So clicking on either of those will give you a tool to, and then you can click on the white space to begin editing. So all of us can make edits to this screen now, hopefully. And what we want to do today is begin adding. Oops. Well, we just got some extra stuff. Well, there's an example. We got some stuff loaded in. I think this is from a previous saved version, but this is an example of how people have added new information to the timeline. We are going to ask all of you to kind of just you can start drawing directly on the timeline, draw a line and add text, add a date and the specific moment in history that you want to reference. We can talk about it as we go, and you can talk to each other in the chat. But I think we want to go ahead and let everyone start. Is that right, Alice?
Yes. Yes, you can go add things in there. You can even raise a question. Like even the future, like what should we be doing? So you can even add a question if you'd like.
So if you want to give me 1 second, I'm going to reload the clear version of it. I don't know how this one suddenly came back with the previous changes, but did that work? It did not.
No, you may have to share it.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but that's fine. They can.
You could still add to it.
Yeah, I'm going to clear some of them out of their space, but they can just keep going. I'm going to leave some of these because they're good.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, so take some time and add some things, even just write a question if you have a question, and then what we'll do is we'll open up for discussions or anything else. That we'll take a look at it and open it up for discussion. So let's take a few minutes and do that. Feel free also, I want to give you, since usually we do this in a breakout room, but it's just us. So feel free also to unmute yourself if you've got a question or anything else you want to particularly say. You can do that if you have a question about using this tool to be able to add.
All right, and we did forget to mention that this works out better in Firefox. Apparently, the speed of communication between the different nodes works better. So again, what we're doing here is we're adding events on the timeline, significant events in our respective movement histories, If you want to focus on the free software movement, you can do so. Any other movements that you feel an affiliation with?
Another tip, obviously you can make the screen smaller, but another tip, if let's say your screen looks big and you're trying to get space, if you use the space bar and then drag your mouse, you can move around the screen. So the space bar and drag the mouse, you can move around the screen so that you can make it a little bit bigger to read, and then add your pieces there.
Yes, and also there are zoom buttons on the bottom left-hand corner. You can zoom in and out and reset the zoom, and you can directly enter a percentage if you'd like.
Again, feel free if you have any questions or any issues with trying to add things to the timeline. Yes, you can still be thinking about it. You can think about things that happened in the past where there were some cross sections or things we need to map. Like, is there anything missing on the timeline you want to add? Or you can like zoom out to the future and what do you think we should be doing? What should be the focus of free software technologists? Like, how does our work impact ongoing movements? And then the future of free software technology, what is that? What should it look like? What do we want it to look like? So you can also add questions or thoughts about that.
Yes, also feel free to go totally sci-fi with this, and you can mark events in the distant future where some utopian dream of ours finally is realized.
That's good.
Jamie's moving the timeline. James moving time. He's extending the time.
I know. I tried to extend it first, and then I ended up moving it, which wasn't I wasn't trying to be a time machine.
I have a question, if I may ask one.
Sure, go ahead.
Is there any way to move around this drawing efficiently, other than holding the middle mouse button?
Can you be more specific? What is it that you'd like to?
Okay. Well, when I press Shift and scroll, I will move to the left or the right, depending on which way I scroll. But it's a little bit slow. Can I make it do it faster? Or
I'm not sure if is there any difference in the speed of using the Shift and scroll to pressing the space bar and clicking with the left mouse button to move around?
Oh, I can press the space. Okay. That was what I was looking for. Thank you.
Great.
And I see a couple of folks that just joined. I see Amelia's in the room, and I just posted the link to the Excalibur that we're all collaboratively working on, and I think there's Derek in here too. So I just want to make sure that you have access. So I put the link again to the and Firefox works best. We're using Excalibur, and folks are just adding maybe there's things that are missing on this timeline, this relationship to the internet, particularly some of the work that's been done in the movements, and then also thinking about the future, whether it's as Jaime puts it, sci-fi, is it utopic, dystopic, or what is the role of free software technologists or free software? Great, thanks. Yes, thank you, Bandal. I did enter the wrong one. Thank you. Duh.
I've seen some good stuff in here. The FSF is founded. There's something about proprietary software on tablets in prisons. Yeah, this is looking great. Nice work, everyone.
So I see there is an addition for the Civi CRM major database tool for movement organizers launched. I think that's in 2004, right? Or before that, maybe it's 2000. Can't remember the year Civi CRM launched.
I don't remember the year either. Sometime around there.
We'll look that one up. That's a good one. Let's see.
I like the link to, not sure when, but in the future, activists gradually shift from centralized proprietary apps to things like Matrix and XMPP.
Yeah.
Oops. I keep moving my window.
Reading another one here from what troubles me most is how people have not been aware for the importance of free software for their privacy. In spite of the revelations of Mr. Snowden, surveillance of citizens, of companies, and even of politicians, white people still don't care for their privacy. And how could we raise more awareness for this? And then after we do raise awareness about privacy, then people will be ready to adopt free software solutions. They'll start seeking for free software, not the opposite.
I see a reference to a term that I'm intrigued by. I think it's digital ring fencing. Is that what it says? I would love to hear a definition of what that means.
Sorry, that was me.
What can you explain?
Yeah.
That would be great to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not an expert on this. I'm just very, at the moment, well, I've been, I sort of learned about free software about a year ago. And I've been desperately trying to get my friends and family to switch to sort of free platforms, different things, not WhatsApp, not Facebook, these sorts of things. And yeah, I've been reading about this like idea of digital ring fencing. So when Facebook started, it had like an open chat protocol, so you could not use Facebook, still communicate to friends on it. But when it became big enough that everyone was using it, the Messenger chat project, they removed this ability. So they sort of got everyone in and then closed the so-called digital ring fence, because you have that critical mass of people. So at that point, it's fine to keep everyone in because you're not, well, everyone's going to their friends on there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, I remember that they were using XMPP. The same was true for Google, and then there was a point where they started shutting all that down. And so you used to be able to use, if you're familiar with the free software, Pigeon chat software, to connect to all the XMPP networks, and you could talk to people who were on Facebook and
Yeah.
Google, and then they did away with all that. They went their own way.
Yeah, exactly. I actually figured it out because I was trying to connect through Pigeon to Facebook chat, and then finally figured out that it wasn't possible.
Wow.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you.
Hamon, humans, whatever you prefer. I think I can answer my own question in purple here. Maybe we could connect the importance of privacy with maintaining our democracy, because it is indeed an important matter, taking into account the tremendous consolidation of power by a few entities regarding the control of the information system, and as well as of the communication system in the same space and time.
That'd be great to add that to the future or now, wherever you want to have it. That's interesting. So it's connecting so the independence of privacy and democracy.
Yeah, simply because qualitative argumentation can never occur if you don't have privacy. If you know you are being watched, then you act differently. It's very simple for everyone to understand that, but one must be aware of that in order to start thinking about it.
Yes.
Thanks.
It's interesting on this theme about the relationship between privacy and democracy. You know, it's one of the tenets of democracy, at least the U.S., that votes should be that votes are secret, and you have privacy in what you choose to vote on. But party affiliation in many states, that is when you register to vote, you are asked if you want to affiliate with a specific party. In many states, that information is made public, or it can be requested, including your address and any information that you provided when you registered it as a voter. And so this is the way that many companies and corporations are able, and these political action groups are able to get access to voter registration databases. And given the reduction of democracy to a two-party system that happens in the US, it pretty much means that there isn't any privacy about which way you're voting anymore. Of course there are some people who register with a different political party intentionally to throw off the system, but it's limited, the amount of play this thing has.
If you ask me, the election system itself in USA, it's not democratic. Okay, it's a republic, I know, but it can easily be proved with simple game theory that it's not fair. Apart from this, apart from the fact that politicians and senators or whatever, their votes are they can be seen by corporations and stuff. There is a matter with the privacy of citizens, because when they are totally aware that from what they say in social networks and in private from instant messaging apps, if they know that they're being watched, they know that it can affect their future job, their insurance. Then they simply won't express the necessary public opinion or point of view in order to change things. And we can see a bad example, quote bad example, extreme example of it with in Turkey, in Russia, China, Iran. So we have the importance of privacy for politicians and the importance of the privacy of citizens for our democracy to be maintained and to be fair. Because the greater the digitalization of our world, even nothing changes in the legal system towards the worst, then the greatest the consolidation of their power. So we have to build two initiatives, one for citizens, the privacy of citizens, and one for politicians or even corporations, because they are not all corporations bad or companies bad, of course. Some they try to do good work, but they still need their privacy and a different approach in order to raise awareness about it, about the importance of privacy for democracy. Thanks.
Thanks for that. I'm just reading more things here on this timeline. I think this 2021 is new, right? The 2021 Badass Encrypted Feminist book launches and the left moves over to that for organizing.
That was from a future previous.
Oh, was that from previous? I couldn't remember.
Yeah, but I left it in as because somehow the previous things got loaded again, but
gotcha.
right before we started.
I see another one. Facebook, unable to sustain the constant movement campaigns against it, finally implodes, leaving it looking a lot like AOL looks now.
That would be great.
It's funny because AOL still, well, people still have AOL accounts. You know, for email, I think it's sort of interesting.
Even if Facebook died today, people would still have Facebook accounts, and some people would even use them 5 years from now. I feel like when you have something as monumentally huge as Facebook, it takes a long time to die.
Yeah. Reading some more here. All code funded from taxes will be licensed and at least permissive licenses and have their code available to public. Activists gradually shift from centralized proprietary communication apps to Matrix and XMPP. Good thoughts here.
There's a lot more focus on the future in this group.
Yeah, I like it. Wondering if everybody had a chance to put something on the timeline or at least raise a question or think about the future? I want to make sure folks have had a chance to. It's good to see folks thinking about the future here. It's helpful. Oh, great. Jan had their chance. I know some folks did. I just want to make sure everybody's had a chance, or if you haven't, maybe a question, you can also post in the chat if you're uncomfortable speaking. I'm just also trying to I'm looking at both the actual timeline here, see if there's anything else that was added.
I'm curious. I also noticed what you were saying, that there's a lot of good stuff for the future. And I'm curious to know from people, are we putting a lot of great stuff in the future because this is what we want? Or do we think this is the direction we're going? Do we think that this is the future that's in store for us? And if not, what do we have to do to get there? I'm curious what folks think about that.
Great questions, Jamie.
Yeah, great question. What do folks think?
Could you please repeat the question?
Yeah, I've got
Sure.
distorted too. So
Sure.
if you could repeat, I would be great.
The question was, most of us have been putting things in the future that we want to happen in the future. And my question is this the future we're heading towards right now? Or if not, what do we have to do now to get that future that we want?
Nice, thanks. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I'll think about it.
I was on mute. I was just thinking about it. I think for me, I didn't post those future things, but as I look at them, I think this is what we want, but I think we have a lot of work to do because I don't know if we're really, there's this. I know there's it's not a struggle, but in our movements, there's starting to be some awareness, right? Since we've had like these campaigns like the No Tech for ICE campaign, right? The fight against Amazon. But I think there's still a lot of work to do because folks are, and maybe it's, the question is like, we know folks right now in the movements are using the social media platforms really well to reach masses, but maybe they're not really thinking through the sort of like what are the what is the word what are the impacts of that? In other words, the issues around privacy, the issues around surveillance also could come hand to hand, right? Because your data is out there. So I think we want to go there. I think we have a lot of work to do, let's say, to convince people that outside of just free software technologists, but people in general, and also like the why for free software technologists, like why we want to move in this direction. So I think there's so much work to do, is what I'm going to say.
Jamie, you mean what we can do with small practical steps towards after we define the future, or we have a wrong image of what the future will be, so we raise awareness about what we should do?
I would never dream of limiting anyone to small practical steps. Be my guest. Small practical steps are great, but certainly not a limitation.
So you're afraid that we're missing a bigger picture about the future, so we act based upon a wrong assumption of it?
I don't think that's true.
Me neither. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm curious as to whether people think we have this future that we're describing in the bag, so to speak. Like whether, because, the timeline described how the movement really was involved in the internet for a while. And then during the Obama years, we kind of gave it back to corporations. And now we're back on a trend in which we're taking ownership of it again. And you can't know the future. You can't know the future based on knowing the past. It's important to know the past, but you can't know the future.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious whether this, trend toward us taking more ownership of the internet is going to continue, or whether it's just another back and forth. And specifically, what extra steps we need to take now to ensure that we can continue this trend.
I think I understand it a little more now. And no, I don't think it's just a trend, because we've come to a point where it is essential for our own individuality and democracy itself, even in developed countries. We are witnessing a huge attack, not just defense, legal defense, etc. We are experiencing they go to the offensive, and that means that it won't be just a trend. Can you understand it?
Yeah. I wonder what other people think. Anyone who hasn't spoken, do any of you have ideas or thoughts?
Yeah,
I
we'd
hear
be
you.
glad to hear you.
I've been listening to the discussion and thinking about it, and I don't know. I keep circling back to the idea of movement not being so much about reaching some specific endpoint and achieving a utopia of all of the goals are achieved and we've got our, everything is using free software, we've got our open society, but it's going to perpetually be a process and something to keep in mind all the time. And so a movement itself is always a matter of essentially scrabbling up the steepest slope you can find until you find, the level plateau where you can regroup and figure out the next direction to go. I mean, when we talk about trends, we've even seen that in the last couple of years. Nobody expected that we would be having a conference online right now. Nobody expected even the immediate future we have right now. Looking just at, for instance, the stock price of Zoom shows you that nobody saw this. And so it's always a matter of keeping that in mind and looking for what the best path forward will be from where you are at any moment. I don't know. That's, I guess, what I've been thinking at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks, Derek, for that. I mean, I think about that too, but because I feel like, yeah, as we're moving forward, there's always like we always have to reassess, right, based on where we are in the political moment or even the environmental moment, right? What's happening in our global world, global climate change, global politics, and reassessing, right? But sort of having that, wanting that common goal of like democracy, of liberation, of what that all means to us, and then what are those things we need to do to achieve that. So it is a constant reassessment, because I see that technology it's a slippery, right? Because it's constantly changing quickly. And it's like we don't always want to just be reacting, but we want to be proactive. So this constant reevaluating, reassessing, it is a state, it's just something that it's a process. So yeah, I like thinking that way too.
It's really important, guys, to always remember that this is not in our hands. It's just, I think Derek was saying, who was saying it? Was it you, Derek?
Yeah, that was me.
These changes occur, but at the meta level, that's the case. There is no question the world is collapsing. And the sustainability of the human race is really in question here. Whether we actually survive as a human race. That's no exaggeration. You don't see it quite as much in the United States, although you do see it to this day. But in other places in the world, it's impossible to live in certain sections of the world. That's why you have these massive migrations going on. Massive migrations of people. They can't sustain themselves where they live because the system is breaking down. The world is breaking down. So there's this pressure on us. In the revolutionary movement, we say there's one, we have the option to just sit back and the entire system, capitalism, the entire system will just collapse, do our work for us. The only problem is we won't be around to see it because when as it's collapsing, it'll kill us all. And so, you got to view these movements for fundamental change, as not something trying to destroy a society or destroy a system. They are an attempt to save the human race as the system destroys itself. And, that's how I see the whole question of change. It's a necessity, a desperate necessity, and always a struggle. However, there is no guarantee that, I think that Jamie's point is very important. There's no guarantee that we win this. There never has been. There's no formula that we have for winning. There never has been. We're doing things as they develop. We have try as hard as we can to develop some general kind of strategy. The big problem in the United States is we have almost no unity among the forces in our movement. Generally they're unified. They all agree to say, but there's no unity of action or any of that kind of stuff. And certainly when you don't have unity of action, you don't have a framework for thinking about the future. And so, I'll say one more thing about the internet itself. The internet and technology is a glimpse of what humanity can do, because there is so much collaboration involved in building the technology, in doing the software, etc., and in the internet itself. If you think about it, what makes the internet work, the estimated 4.5 billion people who are on the internet, that is the internet. That's an enormous collaboration. If you could translate that into other areas of human endeavor, think about the world that you could build. So, I mean, that's just off the top of my head thinking about that. Anyway, it was a very interesting conversation, so I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Alfredo, for also putting that frame on it. Because I think you talk about it a lot, like what, technology can be really used to save this world, to save the human race, right? And trying to always to think about it in that way, in that kind of bigger kind of frame, but also knowing there is no assurances, right? We have no assurances that we could win all this, but if we could learn from this, also learn what it took, the way people have collaborated and built things for good, how do we continue that? And what is that, right? That's a check we always have to check. We have to check based on where we are, the way I see it, like in the moment, where we are and where we think the moment is going, which is why we like to do the visioning piece. So thank you for putting that back into the frame about what is the big thing, right? The big thing is, this planet, the human race. I mean, I think about that, and then also the relationship of technology and people and what people are doing and movements. Thank you for that. We have like a few more minutes before we'll close here. I just want to see if folks have any lasting questions, any kind of things we're missing, maybe a question we haven't asked, or anything else you want to share based on these conversations. It's been a great conversation so far, and again, I'll open it up also for any of the speakers can also speak as well. But I just want to open up for the last few minutes here before we wrap.
Go ahead, I
Jaime.
think. Sorry.
Jaime, but who's speaking?
Please, Jaime, proceed.
Okay, and then we'll go back to you.
Yes.
So something when I think about what is it that we need to do to see that future, and in light of the things Alfredo's sharing with us, that kind of wider vision of what needs to be done. When I think specifically about the free software movement, the LibrePlanet community, Free Software Foundation community, I think something I'd really like to see is more, and I'm not saying there hasn't been, but I'd like to see more collaboration between the free software movement and other liberatory movements, progressive movements, fighting for change, for democracy, and trying to preserve the environment, fighting for the rights of people. I think that kind of interaction is really important, because what we've seen is that technology is not neutral. And even with things like free software, we've seen its enormous potential to support our movements, but also we've seen that when it's treated neutrally, and certain things, aspects of the definition of free software itself has allowed for, these huge corporate companies who are violating user privacy everywhere have really built their enterprises on free software, and they've been able to usurp that, and that's, maybe there's things that can be adjusted to account for that, but in general, it's something that we need to talk about and we need to face, right? It is how the technology, even the technology that we helped develop, even technology that we thought that we were developing in a framework that would increase user freedom, this isn't neutral, and depends on who's using it and how they use it, and things can backfire. So I feel like that's something I'd like to see these communities talk more about. I'd like to see them engage more with other liberatory movements. I'd like to, to continue that conversation.
Thanks, Jaime. And then I think Humans, you wanted to say something next?
Yes. I think Mr. Alfredo's statement partially answers Mr. Jamie's concern about the future. Since it's a matter of human survival, no, it won't be just a trend.
Thanks,
It can't be, or I won't let it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Right. All right. Anybody else? We have like 3 more minutes and then we'll be wrapping.
Yeah, so yeah, I just wanted to chime in if possible a little bit.
Yes, please, Bandali.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm super lucky and grateful that I got the chance to quote unquote be a monitor of this room, and I've been very inspired, and so I'm very thankful to be here. And thank you all for all you do. In terms of something that just came up recently, that Jaime mentioned, I believe, in terms of a lot of different corporations building these vast empires in, like, at least partially on free software. And of course, there's a discussion to be had on the people side of things, and advocacy and like campaigning. But also, I think another interesting sort of tool in the toolbox might be using like copyleft and strong copyleft licenses. That's something that I think I've noticed, is that a lot of big corps who are into quote unquote open source, is that they very much advocate more lax licenses, weaker licenses, and they say, oh, we love open source and blah blah blah, but then as they sort of build their empire on that, and then they don't really share much back. So I think a very effective thing potentially to do could be to do more advocacy around copyleft licenses like GPL or the AGPL, where it really sort of forces everyone to play nice and to share back what they're using. That might be, I think, that could potentially help address at least some of the challenges or issues in this regard.
Thanks, Bandali, for sharing, and we're really glad you're here. And thank you for moderating as well, for helping us out. I wanted to see if there's any last minute comments from Jamie, Jaime, or Alfredo before we wrap. We're good. That was a wave. Jaime, I can't see you. So Jaime, anything else that you want to add?
No, nothing else from.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here and participating, and adding things on the this timeline. This timeline we will share out. It's here. We'll have it. We'll make sure Jaime will save that link for this one, or save the copy of this. Again, you can look for us on the progressivetech.org or may1st.coop. And the timeline is also, the slide deck is also will be available. Thank you again for everybody. Thanks for asking us. And we'll see you around, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thanks, everybody. Bye all. Thanks, Bandali.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a nice day too.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.